Exploring the vast worlds of He-Man and She-Ra, join Sean Scavarna and Matthew Duke as they discuss the history and mystery of Eternia and Etheria, diving deep into all incarnations of Masters of the Universe.
Hey, you know who's back? It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Now that you know, let's go, get ready for the show. It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Sit back and enjoy the ride. Right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to L.O.G on MYP, the fan series where Curtis Ackerman and Matthew Duch go through the Mike Young Productions He-Man and the Masters of the Universe 2002 cartoon series, episode by episode, reviewing and rating it, giving you all the highs, lows, giving you some trivia, some behind-the-scenes info, and most importantly, our opinions. Curtis, how are we doing today?
Doing great. I love that we get the extra insight from the book that one of us has, and one of us isn't eligible to get. So, yeah.
Yes, as the wonderful unofficial guide to He-Man and the Masters of the Universe 2002 series by our good friend Yuka. I don't know if you saw or not, but the quick tangent, just because Yuka's a wonderful human being, they released the preview pages for the latest Master Universe Revolution miniseries, issue 4. And it turns out that there is a new character introduced to the Masters of the Universe mythos called Izak, who is the royal historian to King Miro. So Yuka has officially become a character in the mythos. So
Nice.
Congrats to Yuka.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, but today we are not talking about that. Today we are diving back in time. We're going back to episode 16 of the series, The Mystery of Anwat Gar. This was written by Kevin D. Campbell, directed by Gary Hartel, story edited by Dean Stefan. It originally aired on December 20th, 2002, in the Cartoon Network episode description at the time. He-Man and Man-at-Arms journey to a mysterious island to prevent Skeletor from getting his hands on powerful ancient stones. So remember, quick reminder here, this is the episode when it originally aired that was flip-flopped with Monster Within. That way it came out before the Christmas shopping holiday, as it features the samurai variants that were in stores at the time.
And watching this again, knowing that made a huge difference in how I viewed this episode.
Interesting. You want to get into that now, or are we just going to get into it as the...
I would just say it feels like a giant commercial. Like it feels like there's a lot of toys that they wanted to push in this episode.
It is the most commercial episode so far.
Yes.
We definitely seen.
I don't
some
know that
toys.
I would have picked up on it. I would have picked up on it, but I don't think it would have been as noticeable had we not talked about them being switched. And I'm like, okay, there it is. Oh, there it is again. It's like, it's like once and then all of a sudden you see like the Coke cans over here, and you see the Doritos in the picture, and it's like, oh, look at all the product placement,
Yeah, I think we'll definitely get into that in a little bit here. But so the episode starts off pretty nicely. We're treated to a close-up of the sorceress. She's revealing this vision that she had of a giant, weirdly armored Skeletor rising up out of the ocean and swallowing the sun in his hand. To which Adam asks, what could that possibly mean? Well, probably means Skeletor's going to do some bad stuff here.
But it's not a dream. It's a vision.
It's not a dream. It's a vision.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Make sure she makes that clear, because Adam said, "Oh, we all have bad dreams."
Right. No, with sorceress, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
She fears that Skeletor has learned of the secret of Anwat Gar, an island that is home to the Legacy Stones, ancient artifacts of great powers. Prince Adam transforms into He-Man, and he and Man-at-Arms travel to Anwat Gar, a place that Man-at-Arms claims is also known for its great weaponry. The pair has trouble making it to shore as the island is protected by powerful waves that nearly drown them.
Yeah, if as we've been going through this, if you have felt like Man-at-Arms has been really cold and uncaring, this is the episode where if you wanted to see him get his butt kicked, this is the episode, because many times throughout this, Man-at-Arms is getting it handed to him. Starting off with this one where the waves are coming at him, where they're riding like the shark jet ski,
the war
things.
whales, available now only from Mattel.
And he
Which
gets
I like. I do like those vehicles. Real quick here, I do like them. I kind of have a soft spot for all the vehicles. Like,
they do look cool. It reminds me a little bit of the Land Shark, but maybe even cooler.
But that also makes sense because they're both Eternian vehicles. Like,
yeah.
It's one of the more it fits in with the themes of Masters.
Oh yeah. So the waves are hitting him, and Man-at-Arms gets pushed way under. He looks like he's maybe going to drown, and obviously He-Man saves him because he's He-Man. So,
and I like that. I like that Man-at-Arms continually has problems with water. Like, He-Man's got Skeletor, Teela's got Evelyn, and Man-at-Arms has anything in the ocean is just bad.
He's really like the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah, like I'm melting.
Yeah.
So are we to believe that Man-at-Arms can't swim, or he's just so loaded down because of his armor and everything? Like, because he goes down like a rock. Yeah,
he goes down pretty fast. I'm not sure. I mean, later on in this episode, and we've seen it before too, where like all of a sudden he, the armor that he has will turn in, like, transform into like a massive gun and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe he's got so much like just metal and tech on him that, he just, it's like swimming with a cinder block attached to your foot or something,
Yeah. But regardless, Man-at-Arms should never go near the water. Like, it always ends badly for him.
Yeah.
And I like the point that, which I did not catch first time I was watching it, definitely. But Man-at-Arms points out that the waves are coming from the island.
Yeah. Yes. They're going the opposite direction. Yeah.
Right. Pushing them back. As He-Man and Man-at-Arms finally make it to the island, we see a mysterious figure watching them in the shadows. Now, again, my first time watching this Cartoon Network episode description, we don't know who we're getting, if anybody, in this episode. There's not even it's not like, Mechanics Lament, where they're like a mysterious villain or whatever. Like, for all we know, it's just about these stones.
Right.
So we see that silhouette there, no colors, just the head. First time I watched, my guess was that was going to be Rock-On. I think because I was thinking about like legacy stones, like maybe this has to do with the rock people, and just seeing that quick shot of him there, not colored. It's like, oh, are they going to do Rock-On? I was even more impressed when they eventually we see him completely, and it's an awesome upgrade of Cyclone. But can you remember back when you first watched it, what you were thinking at this point?
I don't know that I thought it was anybody. I thought it was just, one of those episodes where, maybe it's somebody we've never heard or seen of before that is, somehow related to this storyline that they're building. So, but I was pleasantly surprised because I've always liked Cyclone, just the colors. Like they're so, like, I mean, they're the big, bright primary colors, and they're just in your face, and they shouldn't go together, but they do, and it looks awesome.
Absolutely.
So I think even more than the design, just the color scheme of him, I've always enjoyed. So I do think it's a great upgrade that they did. I mean, it looks awesome.
100%. Man-Arms and He-Man travel further in. They go through a gauntlet of booby traps, finally coming to a citadel where two giant.
Well, before with the booby traps, Man-at-Arms almost gets smashed by the booby trap, and He-Man has to save him again. The second time He-Man's having to save him.
Yep.
Like these statues with shields are like smashing into each other, and he almost gets squished, and He-Man throws him, and instead He-Man gets squished, but then, of course he's He-Man, and he's He-Man. So
he's good. Yeah, and that takes us to the main citadel of the island. where they feel the legacy stones must be. But there's 2 giant statues that come to life as a last line of defense here. He-Man speculates that they're so big and bulky that they should not be able to move quick, and he's quickly disproven as he ninja slices and almost takes out He-Man and Man-at-Arms.
This was very Ray Harryhausen for me. Like those old movies, Jason and the Argonauts and that kind of thing, where you would have like inanimate objects, statues or whatever come to life and attack you, and they don't seem to be intelligent beings, but they're on a mission to stop you or whatever.
They're just trying to destroy.
Yeah. And it was cool. It's a good fight. Man-at-Arms gets his butt kicked again.
Well, and I like that. So He-Man's able to, he fights he ends up jumping straight through it, knocking a giant hole and taking it out pretty cleanly.
Yeah, he throws the sword, it hits him, and then he kicks the sword through him. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then you flip to the Man-at-Arms versus statue battle, and he's having to basically just use his giant cannon to just pop chunks off of it at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, finally gets enough off where the whole thing falls apart, but it all lands on him.
Yeah.
So I love when they take the moments there to give us these different kind of fighting styles. But yeah, unfortunately, ends up in Man-Arms taking a lot more damage at the same time.
Well, yeah,
and even after
he
down,
knocks it out, then the hand is still moving and squishes him. Yeah.
Yep.
Seeing He-Man kick his sword through something is I don't know in any other media that we've seen that before. That was it was a unique way he doesn't, well, in Filmation, he doesn't use his sword hardly at all. But, when he does use his sword, you're not usually seeing him stab people. But I guess because they're rock statues, it's it's okay to stab these things. So then to see him throw it, into it, it's okay, that's cool. But then when he kicks it the rest of the way, I'm okay, that might be the coolest thing I've seen He-Man do. So.
Absolutely. No, it's great. And that's what I love about this series. It really takes the action up and lets He-Man be the most powerful man in the universe and fight it out. Like we said before, that we're playing for keeps here in this Eternia.
Yeah.
Once the statues are taken care of, He-Man and Man-at-Arms are confronted by Cyclone. Who is the last protector of the legacy stones.
What do you think about this interaction with them? When they're coming up, obviously he's got a job to do. They're coming up to talk to him. What do you think of that interaction?
I really like it, honestly. I like the fact that, he's very much, Cyclone's very much by the book. He's like, you guys need to leave. You're not welcome here. And they're like, he's saying, I'm protecting the legacy stones. They're like, oh, that's great, because we're here to protect the legacy stones. And Cyclone's just like, yeah, I don't care, dude. My job is to keep everybody off the island. You are everybody. I don't care what your intentions are. It's almost that. It's almost the fugitive scene with Kimball and the Marshal, where he's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I didn't kill my wife. I don't care.
I don't care. My job is to bring you in. My job is to keep everybody off this island.
Yeah.
And I like that it doesn't just immediately, He-Man and Man-at-Arms try to reason with him. It's not even like the typical trope would be no one takes a second to talk to each other, but they do.
Right.
And at the end of it, Cyclone just yeah, that doesn't matter. Get off, and they won't. And so then it comes to the heroes fighting each other.
Yeah, I really thought this was a very natural interaction. This felt right, because he's basically telling him, I'm here to defend these stones. You need to go away. And they kind of explain their the Skeletor, and he's like, I don't know about the Skeletor. I don't know what you're talking about, but you need to go. And then He-Man's trying to explain themselves, but as he's explaining, he's walking towards him.
Yeah.
And if I'm Cyclone, it's okay, that I've already told you to go away, and now you're moving towards me. I don't really care what your words are. You're now a threat, and I've got to take you out. I think if they would have stayed where they're at and explained themselves, I think maybe they don't fight here. But
No, it's
because
definitely
He-Man
possible.
starts moving towards him, he feels like he needs to attack. And I just felt like that was cool, because if they just stayed where they were at and then he attacked him, it would have felt odd. But the fact that He-Man's progressing towards him and he does it, it makes it feel like, okay, yeah, I could see if I'm in Cyclone's shoes, this guy's
Right.
talking about some Skeletor that I know nothing about. He's already taken out 2 of my statues, you know, and now he's continuing to walk towards me after I told him to go away. Like, now it's time to take him out.
Yeah, and Cyclone sitting here going, my one job's keep people out silent. These 2 have probably made it the farthest that anybody's made it in a long time. So, like, he's already threatened.
Except for, I mean, we obviously in a second we find out that Skeletor and Beastman are already there. But even at the beginning of the episode, I thought, why are they traveling across water to begin with? Now, obviously, it's because they want to sell a toy. But it's like they've got a lot of flying vehicles. They could have easily just flown there, and you wouldn't have to deal with the waves and all this kind of stuff. So,
well,
yeah.
Maybe it was a tactical idea for Man-at-Arms, you know, like you're more obvious flying in the air. We don't know how Skeletor is getting here. We don't know when he's getting here.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's will be less obvious going by sea than by air.
I just felt like that was the first moment of this episode where I felt like they're putting something in the story specifically to sell me something, even though it would have made more sense, I think, to fly there.
Yeah.
Like they're specifically changing the story now in order to highlight this thing that they want to show me. So there was that part. So when you say, you know, probably got further than anybody else, I don't know. Did anybody else try to fly there? Because if so, they probably could have avoided all these other traps so far.
Maybe, but Cyclone does have his wind powers, which obviously looking back, we know he used to create those waves, pushing them back out to sea. But that would be even more deadly in an aircraft too. So
possibly,
yeah. But regardless, He-Man and Cyclone start to fight. Cyclone again hurts Man-at-Arms a little bit more. He's beat up this episode.
Yeah, he's almost drowned. He had rocks fall on him, had a hand squeeze him, and now he's got Cyclone blasting him. So he's not in a good way.
He-Man is able to get closer to Cyclone, and I love this part where he's like, all right, keep your hands down. And he does, and he just starts spinning his body, winding up, and then just unleashes the wind, blowing He-Man back. He-Man does that awesome kick off the rocks and flies right back through the eye of the Cyclone and just punches him.
And, you know, as kids that had the Cyclone figure when we were kids, like, we don't remember him doing this with his arms and making wind stuff. We remember he spins him around at the waist, right? So when he does, like, he starts fighting with his hands and all this kind of stuff, and then He-Man says that, and then he starts kind of moving to waist, and you're like, oh yeah, like, here it comes. Like, this is what we've been waiting for.
And that's what I love about this series. I love how the power level, right? So if he does it with the arm or with the hands, it's these smaller wind bursts. But then he does his whole body and there's this giant gale force wind. And it's like, again, making sense out of these powers and how you can do the different levels and everything. As well as he's got his shield is now a shield / disc launcher, where he's shooting those discs at He-Man. So it's like, okay, I'm down with this. All these upgrades of Cyclone, I am just geeking out over. Because one of my favorite characters. He-Man does end up holding him and tries to explain that their only desire is to keep the legacy stones out of Skeletor's hand. Right at that moment, perfectly queued up, is Skeletor and Beastman emerging from the top of the Citadel, and they already have the legacy stones.
Well, they're not even really emerging from the top of the Citadel. They're just on the top of the Citadel. Like, we don't know. Did they go inside and get the stones? Were the stones on top of it? Like how did they get in there? How did like they didn't have to deal with any of the traps? Like, what's going on? Like, you know, so He-Man and Man-at-Arms are doing all of this stuff to get there. And they've already been there. They've already been there, done that, and we don't even know how. So
see, I took it, and again, I know this is just my interpretation because yes, it's basically left open to that where we see them on top. My thinking is they just emerged from the Citadel, but I think what happened was Sorceress actually caused more harm than good with her vision.
oh yeah, because they distracted Cyclone while
well, I think everything.
Yeah.
I think He-Man and Man-Arms arrived just before Skeletor and Beastman.
Right.
They went through the traps, so then Skeletor and Beastman were able to just walk right behind them. Then they got into an argument with Cyclone and the statues, allowing Skeletor and Beastman to be able to slip around the back, find a window, something, and get in and get the Legacy Stones.
Maybe. I think it would have been nice to see a little bit of that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's too maybe that's doing too much.
I think
it just kind of felt like, okay, so Man-at-Arms and He-Man went through all of this, and Skeletor and Beastman didn't have to deal with any of it. Like, and the fact that they are already emerging from it, to me, says that they were already there before He-Man and Man-at-Arms got there. Like, because they didn't know He-Man and Man-at-Arms were coming. So it's not like they, were sitting there waiting for them to get to the island and go through the traps and then follow behind them. They didn't know they were even coming. So I don't know. It seems a little odd to me, but
yeah,
it is what it is. I think it's only a 25-minute show, so I guess they can't show everything.
I think you could have added a line of dialogue. I don't think you need to show it, but even just when Skeletor emerges and thanks, He-Man, you distracted the Guardian, and I was able to grab the Legacy Stones. Like
that would have been
just
great.
Something there to where it's like okay, and then everything else is implied. We don't have to worry about it.
Well, and then I noticed they will say emerged from the Citadel. They're whatever. They're there. And Beastman's holding the stones.
Yes. Now,
I don't know. Maybe this is just me, but I'm thinking if these stones are that powerful. I mean, we saw what happened with the what was it, the crystal that Merman had and stuff. Like,
yeah, the Cordate.
Right. So why is Skeletor, as they're leaving the Citadel, why is he letting Beastman hold these things? Like it doesn't seem very Skeletor to me.
If they got there, saw that He-Man and Man-Arms were fighting the statues, climbed to the top of the roof, Skeletor busted a hole in the roof, and Beastman climbed down into there and grabbed the stones for him, monkey style.
Okay. I like how your description of how things could have gone has fixed a bad story. So okay.
That's my mind tries to fill in the plot point.
Yeah, you're filling in the blanks that the writer didn't do. So
but I like so do you like just based on what we do see, do you like them randomly popping up at the right moment? Or would you rather have what we've seen in previous episodes where it's like the heroes are going to do this, and then we cut to Skeletor, I'm going to go do this?
I would rather see them like coming out of the Citadel through a window or through whatever, so that that they were in there. Him saying the line, like you said, thanks for distracting him while we, snuck in or whatever. And then Skeletor pulls the crystals from his belt.
Right.
That's kind of what I would prefer.
And more on what this side does than like, I forget which episode.
They'll stay with He-Man and everything, but when they emerge,
yeah,
kind of give some explanation as to what just happened. Just not just we're just standing on top of the building now with the crystals magically. So,
so at that time, Skeletor reveals that they have the stones. He uses one of the stones to cast a spell that gives him powerful armor that looks just like the one he was wearing in the Sorceress's vision.
It's still Skeletor.
The samurai armor. Those were in stores at this time. They featured Samurai He-Man, Samurai Skeletor, Samurai Man-at-Arms, as well as samurai variants of Battle Cat and Skeletor's trusty steed, Battle Raptor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So
I think that the versions that we get of He-Man and Skeletor here are my least favorite versions of He-Man and Skeletor. Like if you talk about like battle armor and terror claws and
Yes.
you know, flying fist and all that kind of all the different versions of He-Man and Skeletor we've seen over the years, this is my least favorite. I think it's just goofy as shit. Like if it was just Samurai, cool. The fact that they've got to raise them up off the ground by what, a foot, 2 feet,
Yes.
like it's not even a lot. It's just silly. It absolutely makes no sense whatsoever to me. But
yeah, and that was the thing, the stilts, and I wouldn't mind them as much if they didn't have the stilts on them. If you could, like, especially Skeletor's
Samurai, whatever, yeah.
But yeah, but it's just, and it's interesting that, you know, obviously this is the most toy commercial, but then as we'll see, like only He-Man and Skeletor get the armor, even though Man-at-Arms had a figure and goes to the island with them, and he still doesn't get one. We don't see Battle Cat or this alleged Battle Raptor at all. So it's you can at least see Mike Young trying to not just be a toy commercial. Like obviously this is a mandate, we have to get these in there, but they're like, yeah, we're not gonna just parade the whole lineup.
I want to talk more about the toy commercial part of it, but I want to do it towards the end because I don't want to kind of spoil as we gone through. But yeah, so Skeletor does his thing, and then he just leaves the other crystal and takes off.
He literally goes hopping around the island like he's wearing moon shoes back in the 80s.
He's gone. He just
boing,
leaves,
boing.
Leaving Beastman to hold the other crystal. You know,
Beastman's like, oh, whoa, what should I do? And oh yeah, I got a stone. Beastman's very clawful in this episode. At least
he doesn't remember the words that Skeletor said, and
he can't activate it. So this gives He-Man an opportunity to activate the armor, and he becomes Samurai Armor He-Man, which I really dislike. Like Skeletor's armor for me, take away the stilts, and it looks pretty cool. I hate all of He-Man's armor. I don't know what it's just. I don't know. It does not work for me. It's at all. So
I do like that they use the idea of the stones to transform them into these armors and stuff, because it explains why we've never seen it before and all this kind of stuff. So I like that. The designs of them, I think they're not great. And like I said, it just feels very toy commercial to me. And as you know, so He-Man turns into his armor thing and he goes chasing after Skeletor. And at this point,
real quick, we did forget to mention Skeletor. Cyclone did make an attempt to confront him and get the stones back, and Skeletor blasted the crud out of him.
Skeletor blasted the crud out of him before he transformed.
Correct.
So like just regular old Skeletor was able to just blast the crap out of Cyclone, even though he's been going toe to toe with He-Man the whole time.
Right.
So
which may also show that it gives that inkling of Cyclone, you know, like he was trying to get them off the island, but maybe he wasn't actually, like, he wasn't using lethal force at that time. He's more like, you know, it's a win. Go away. Go away. Go away. Like, but yeah, and then he confronts Skeletor. And at the same time, He-Man's obviously not trying to kill this random dude on an island.
Right.
So, but then Skeletor comes up, and I mean, the wrist armor's popping off a Cyclone and everything. Like, he gets fried. Which I'd forgotten how badly he got hit there.
Yeah, it's like tearing apart his armor and everything. So then He-Man transforms, he starts chasing after Skeletor, and at this point, it's a full-blown anime cartoon at this point. Like it is like Pokemon or anything else. Like the all the background is just flying by them like as fast as they can. So as they continue to fight, even like as they're moving, I understand the background flying, but even as they start fighting each other, the background is still, you know, flying by them and stuff.
Yeah, and they're jumping way up into the stratosphere. It's very Dragon Ball to me. Yeah, like these big jumps. They're hitting each other, flinging each other up.
He gets knocked down almost to like the core of the planet.
Yeah, he literally busts through like 100 feet of rock, winds up in a lava pool.
And it's like molten, and then comes up, and now he's way up in the sky, and then he comes down and it lands in a big explosion. It is just so over the top. It's not it. This fight scene here does not feel like Masters of the Universe at all to me.
No.
This is like, we talked at the beginning about the spinning weapons and all this kind of stuff, and it just and it didn't last long, which is great. But here, it is like that amped up to the max. Like it is like times 100.
And the funny thing is, during the sequence, that's the one thing there isn't is spinny weapons. Like I was
Right.
Perfectly prepared for Skeletor
But
to
it's
start
just
swirling.
flashing backgrounds and
big
down into the lava,
explosions.
up into the sky, explosions, and jumping, and
And here's my problem with this samurai armor. As we come to find out, the power of the samurai armor is that it makes you invincible.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's literally the Super Mario Power Star with no time limit.
Yeah,
I'm like that.
Yeah, you can jump high, you can fly, you can go through lava, you can go into the sky,
Everything's
you can make
fine.
explosions, and you can't get hurt. So,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's anytime a power is just invincibility, it's like, okay. Like there's no.
Yeah.
Like how do you even work with that in a story narrative? Like that's what kills it for me. It's like that just okay, as long as he wears the armor, and that's what they end up coming to eventually. But before we get there, we do have Beastman taking on a very injured man arms. Like he can barely walk upright at this point.
He's like got like a hole in his side. Like it is
Yeah,
there's like a chunk like missing in his side.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's just the armor or if it's actually going through him, like if he's got a, like a through and through wound that
he's at least got a few cracked ribs, if nothing else. I mean,
he's struggling the whole rest of the episode.
Yeah, and Beastman he's like, all right, here we go, shooting fish in a barrel.
But Man-at-Arms has got a transformer for an arm, and it can, it's just all of a sudden turn into this massive cannon gun that he can fire at Beastman. So.
Yep, but even still, Beastman is chasing Man-at-Arms around the island. Man-at-Arms ends up leading Beastman into one of the island's traps, where Beastman gets a bunch of lasers shot at him out of faces along this narrow passageway. Back with He-Man and Skeletor.
Real quick, I liked that because that felt to me like, so we saw where He-Man and Man-at-Arms arrived at the island and the things that they had to face to get up to where Cyclone was at. This to me shows another part of the island. Like if somebody would have come in the other way, that they would have had to face these other obstacles. So it's like, no matter how you approach this island, you are going to have something. So that makes me kind of think that maybe Skeletor and Beastman did have to navigate something. We just don't know.
So feels like a good point. Jump ahead to the trivia section of Yuka's book. And I like your explanation here in the final episode, but there's actually a removed scene from the script, which Yuka felt caused a continuity error, which I feel you explained better. But in the script, it had He-Man and Man-at-Arms go down this passageway in addition to the shields, in addition to the stone statues. So it was Man-at-Arms luring Beastman back
through
to
the
one
traps
of the
they'd already
they
faced.
went through. Yeah, in the original script. So
see, I just thought it was a completely different direction and different obstacles.
I think it works better that way, honestly, rather than just that's where they went through. It's more Man-at-Arms could pick it out this time.
Yeah,
that was going to be a trap.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Back with He-Man and Skeletor, the He-Man comes to realization that as long as they're both wearing the armor, like nothing's ever gonna happen. They're just going to go Power Rangers forever. So
this is dumb to me. Like,
so He-Man does the only thing you can possibly do in this situation, and He-Man gives up his invincibility. He takes off the helmet, loses the armor, and lets Skeletor beat the crud out of him. Until he can get Skeletor to hold him close enough to where he can pull off Skeletor's helmet.
But he could have left his helmet on and still gone after Skeletor's helmet and tried to pull it off, right? Like the fact that he takes off and removes his invincibility and then just gets the, like you said, the crud kicked out of him by Skeletor. Like, it seems like he could have done his plan without removing his invincibility, but
because it's not like they weren't going after each other. It's not like they were staying.
But he wasn't
apart.
trying to remove that. Like, there's this segment where Skeletor says, you know, hey, as long as we have these stones, we're invincible, you know, whatever. So nobody's gonna win. And that's when He-Man kind of comes to the realization. He's like, you know what, you're right. And then he takes his helmet off. Well, once he comes to that realization that, hey, the helmet, if you take the helmet off, that, you know, this is gonna go away. That's when he should start going after Skeletor's helmet. But instead, he's like, I'm gonna take my helmet off. Almost like two guys are squaring off and they're like, hey, let's just put down the weapons and just face each other man to man. But Skeletor's not going to do that. He's not going to take his helmet off and face him man to man. And, you know, then it plays out to where he's like, well, he did it to lure Skeletor in because now he feels invincible and he would let him get close or whatever.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, there was no reason to lure him in because the whole time before that, they were hitting each other. Like, it's not like they were staying away from each other.
Right.
They were coming up. They were hitting. They were punching. They were like, it's not like Skeletor was like staying away from him. And he's like, okay, the only way I can get close to him is to do this. Like, that's what I'm saying. There was no reason to lure. Like, we're already fighting. Yeah, completely agree. But yeah, so then once he has the helmet off of Skeletor, he transforms back. Beastman shows up on a griffin and the two fly off.
Listen, you're overlooking one thing here that I think people need to know about. As Beastman's flying by on the griffin, he reaches down and like grabs Skeletor's hand to pull him up, and it is about the coolest hand grab since like Predator with Dutch and Dylan, you know, like that. Like, I mean, you don't even see Beastman. All you see is his hand reach through the like top of the screen, reach down and grab Skeletor's as he's flying by, flings him on the griffin, and go, like, that's a good grab. That's solid. I really enjoyed that part. It was just like
Curse's favorite scene right there.
Yeah. Beastman comes in to save the day. So,
back at the Citadel, He-Man fears that the Legacy Stones are too great a danger to Eternia, and he refuses to give them back to Cyclone, and instead crushes them with his bare hands, in spite of Cyclone's objections.
Okay, so this is the part that I wanted to talk about with the toy commercial. So you do this whole episode to sell this armor, sell this idea of this stuff. And then at the end of the episode, you destroy the stones, which means they can never use that armor ever again.
Right.
Like, if I'm not a kid at this time, right? And I wasn't watching it live, but if I'm watching that and I see, okay, so this is an armor they used for one episode and they never can use again. Why do I want that?
Right.
That's not a toy I want to buy. I want to buy a toy that it's like, oh, they just got this new battle armor and they're going to have that going forward because it's better than their regular armor or whatever. It's an upgrade.
Yes.
Like, this is just a temporary thing. This is a one-off. Yeah. I don't know. I don't get them destroying it.
Well, and again,
I think it would have made more sense to put it back in the Citadel and help Cyclone rebuild it and have him guard it or whatever. But to me, it feels like it defeats the whole purpose of making this a commercial episode.
Well, and I think that's a bit of Mike Young, Dean Stefan and everybody like, yeah, like, I mean, think about it. So they made him flip flop the schedule, but even that barely got it out before Christmas. I mean, December 20th, like this did not air Friday night, December 20th, and moms and dads around the country were like, "Oh, I gotta get out there and get these samurai figures for little Billy."
Right.
Like,
as if the mom and dads were watching this episode anyway, or
you gotta assume little Billy, the first thing he did was go, "Mom, we gotta go get these." You know, they didn't do the full lineup of the variants. And then they crushed it. So,
do you think that during the episode when this played live, that they played the commercial for those figures during this episode?
No, I don't remember ever seeing. That was one of the weird things you would never see.
That's the only way I would think if I'm little Billy and I'm watching it. The only way I even know there's a toy is if you throw a commercial in during this episode and go, hey,
Yeah.
you know, these cool armor, whatever, cool, quote unquote, armors that you're looking at. Well, guess what? You can buy it in a toy form. Like on December 20th, Billy doesn't know that exists. He saw it in the episode, but he doesn't know that that's a toy to even ask his parents to go get.
Well, there definitely was a commercial for the samurai figures. They did make one, but I don't quote me on this, but I seem to remember there being a regulation of some sort that you couldn't advertise your own product during your show.
I didn't know that.
So, like, you couldn't advertise G.I. Joe during a G.I. Joe,
like wearing the T-shirt of the band that you're going to see in concert,
right? But yeah, the commercial was definitely around. I don't remember it ever airing on Cartoon Network, though. For some reason, I seem to remember the commercials airing on like the local channels, like during the Saturday morning cartoon blocks.
It would be interesting to see when the commercials started airing for that, because if the commercials started airing for the samurai toys, like let's say a month beforehand,
right,
and then you saw the episode, you're like, I don't know what's going on with these samurai toys, and then you saw the episode and you're like, oh, that, I really like this or whatever, and I've already seen those toys, now I can ask for it. Maybe that makes sense. It would be interesting to see when the commercials aired versus when this episode aired.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I would think that that's something that you would put in a book if you were going to have that on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's how hard that would be to track that,
Yeah.
I'm seeing if it's got anything.
But, as you said, he destroys the stone. Cyclone is distraught. Cyclone's like, no. Like
I do have the commercial if you want to watch it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Let's let me see how I can do this to make it better for you.
Because I didn't even know about the cartoon. I definitely didn't know about.
Actually, here's what I'm gonna do. We'll finish the episode. I'm going to do something on my end, and then we'll watch it after we're done with our review.
So He-Man destroys the crystals. Cyclone's like, no, don't destroy the crystals, whatever. And then after he destroys the crystals, he's like, oh, well, I guess my purpose in life is done. And then He-Man's like, well, not so fast. And somehow recruits him to join the Masters. Now, maybe I'm missing a couple steps here. I don't know. But my whole purpose in life, you just destroyed. Like we didn't have a conversation about it. We didn't talk about the pros and cons of leaving these stones around. You just took it upon yourself to crush these stones that I've been defending my whole life. And now all of a sudden I'm going to be like, hey, let me join you in your Masters. Like that, it just feels awkward to me.
And even the He-Man didn't ask for consent.
No,
Cyclone is literally objecting, and he's like, yeah, whatever, dude.
Right.
Well, by the way, I got a job for you if you're interested.
If he
had been able to convince him,
right,
like, hey, there's no reason you just need to be you don't have to be tied to this island. Nothing good can come of this, and help Cyclone be like, you know what? It is time for me to start a new journey, make my own destiny.
Then I totally get it. Then it's like, okay, he convinced him, they're on the same page, and now he's going to join the Masters. All good.
Right.
But no, he's like, these are too dangerous. Cyclone disagrees. He crushes it. And then Cyclone's like, let me go with you. Like, what?
Well, and even for a minute before He-Man makes his offer, you almost get the feeling that Cyclone's like suicidal. Like he's like, oh, I guess it's time for the last defender of Anwat Gar to rest. Like, whoa, dude. Like, I think if anything with He-Man, it's like a pity kind of invite. He's like, oh, I hadn't really thought this through. Like, I mean, we got a group. You can come hang out at the palace. Like, shit.
But it's like, if somebody just destroyed everything that you lived for, why would your immediate reaction to be, I want to join that person?
Right.
Like it, I don't know. It seems like there needs to be a smoothing out over period. Like when we talked about earlier about Stratos and Buzz Off and their people kind of going at it, it wasn't like immediately where they're like, okay, well, we're going to be friends. There's some tension there and stuff.
Right.
And I think this is something that, had there been some tension here afterwards, and then an episode or two later, Cyclone decides to join them. maybe that's a little bit better. Or like you said, if he convinces Cyclone that the stones are dangerous and they need to be destroyed, then it makes sense. But for him to just destroy it when he's upset and then immediately like join their team, it's like, oh shit, we only got 2 minutes left of the show. He joins the Masters.
Right.
That's what
That's
it
what
feels
it's like. It's literally
Yeah.
a scene with him shaking Stratos' hand, and they're all just standing there like grinning, and no one says a word. It's just like
it's like they're just running the episode along, and they're like, oh crap, we got to end this. He joins the team. Okay.
Well, and one of my things too is, I've kind of touched on this before, where it's like, we have these kind of featured episodes, but then that featured master isn't a part of the resolution. Where, Cyclone gets taken out and we don't see him again until after the threat's over.
Right. And he doesn't destroy it. If he was the one that either stopped Skeletor or he was the one that destroyed the crystals, I think this whole all feels a little bit better. But I think like he really didn't even need to be there.
If you come to that moment of He-Man and Skeletor locked in combat, neither one feel we're both invincible and we're just gonna go at each other for eons, and then Cyclone swoops in, wins the helmets off both of them, and destroys them himself. Like, there's a much cleaner end. It gives Cyclone his grand introduction. Because I was actually even surprised rewatching it today. I'm like, man, I'd forgotten that Cyclone really doesn't help at the end at all. No. Like, I kept waiting for him to pop back up. Like, no, this is my destiny.
Yeah, it's very similar to the Mechanics lament that we talked about. It's like they feel like they've always got to make He-Man be that one that causes the resolution at the end.
Right.
And you never let anybody else really step up. And I think you see that kind of throughout this series, and even in that toy line where they kept just putting out version after version of He-Man and Skeletor. And it's like, hey, there's other characters here too. And people really like those other characters. Like, there's a whole library of, backstory to these characters and stuff. And, it wouldn't be bad to highlight them every now and then.
Yep.
So.
All right, why don't you hit us with our moral, and then we'll take a look at a commercial.
The moral says, doing your duty is important, but it's not just following orders. The most important duty of all is to do what is right. Which,
if Cyclone had come back and been the one to resolve this, that's a perfect moral.
Yes. If he says, these are too dangerous, we need to destroy them, whatever. Then that would make sense to me. I do like the moral because there's a lot of people that have done terrible shit over the years because they were quote unquote following orders. So I like the message. It just doesn't necessarily relate to what we just watched.
Yeah, but it's so close to. If you just give Cyclone that opportunity, then that's the perfect moral there.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what these samurai figures are all about.
The masters of the universe. He-Man has transformed into an unstoppable samurai warrior. But so is Skeletor and his vicious battle raptor. They launch their attack to destroy Castle Grayskull. But Samurai He-Man also has the power of the mighty Battle Cat. They launch a missile at the spring-loaded legs of Battle Raptor. These warriors are bigger, stronger, and possess armor that explodes on impact. He-Man samurai figures and beasts, each sold separately.
See, and I forgot. I wanted to say that there was a feature of the armor, and that's what it was. You hit it, and like it popped off, almost Rock'em Sock'em type, which again is not featured in the episode at all.
No,
I will say that He-Man's animated armor definitely looks a ton better than his actual toy armor. For those of you who are listening on audio in the commercial, it starts off with the animation from the Anwat Gar episode, the Mike Young animation, and it like morphs into the toys, and you can really see the the disparity between the designs.
Which, once again, the fact that they were put part of the cartoon in the commercial tells me that I think this commercial probably aired after the cartoon. Yeah, I mean, maybe
at least around the same time.
Yeah,
because I mean, the cartoon's got to be done, at least a few weeks beforehand.
Understood, but I wouldn't think that they would give away that. But I don't know. just like you said, the whole December 20th thing. It doesn't make a lot of difference. Like if it was something where they were right at a mid-season point, so you were going to have one episode at let's say the beginning of December, and then your next episode wasn't going to be till like beginning of February because you were going to have like a break, then I could see. But did you really move it up 1 week?
Well, and actually, this is the break then.
Okay. So they did move it before the break. So it was
they moved it. So there was this aired December 20th, Monster Within aired December 27th, and then the break occurred.
Okay.
Our next episode isn't until March.
But what did you gain by moving it 1 week?
You got it before Christmas, technically.
A few days before? Like
better than 2 days after, I guess, is their idea. But I would assume that this commercial is airing the entire month of December at minimum.
Okay.
But that's just my guess.
I really loved in this episode seeing the Samurai Man at Arms and that raptor, that jumping raptor was really cool in this cartoon.
Battle Cat with a rocket launcher. That's very samurai.
They could have thrown those jet skis in this thing. That would have been cool. I would have liked to see the jet skis in the commercial.
Those were a fun toy too.
Yeah. I don't think I've even seen the toy for that.
No. It's very similar.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah,
it looks awesome though in the cartoon. So,
and actually, the me
what's
at
it called again? Sorry,
the war whale.
War whale. Okay.
So I at the time was buying one of everything just because. Well, I liked most of it, even like some of the goofy variants, especially early in the line. I still took some pleasure in.
Mm.
Even at this time, I never touched the samurai figures. I never owned any of them. Nothing. Like, even just to support the line, I'm sitting here going, no. Like, if that helps you.
You know, it's available on Amazon right now, that war whale?
No, I'm sure there's a lot of third-party sellers on Amazon.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But yeah, it's a fun little toy. I had that. I had the attack squid. But yeah, I would not touch the samurai figures back then, and I definitely won't touch them now. And this episode does not do anything to make me want them anymore.
Yeah, dude, that thing's cool.
No, it's fun. It's got all those launching missiles and everything too. Yeah.
To me, this is the highlight of when it comes to toys. Like, this is the highlight of the episode, not the samurai crap.
Oh, for sure.
Well, this and the Cyclone. The Cyclone redesign is amazing. So, yeah, awesome. I might have to get one of those. That feels like it would be a good toy to get to like play with right now. Like, I don't buy toys to play with. I just buy toys and throw them, in the cabinet and leave them sit there and look at them. But that's one I would probably mess around with. It looks fun.
Some nice trivia from Yuka's book. And I think we mentioned this in our mid-season break, but we'll definitely mention it again. This is Cyclone's first appearance, although in an earlier script for episode 1, he was already among the members of Prince Adam's birthday party. Yep. So he was one of those that was supposed to just be there originally, and they end up holding him back.
Gotcha.
And in the moral segment, the Castle Grayskull art is based on the main stock art, but this is a newly painted image, and it has much stronger bricks on the skull. And I noticed this during the moral segment that it looked weird, especially amongst the skulls.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't catch that part.
Deleted scenes. Originally, when He-Man informs Cyclone that's too dangerous to have the Legacy Stones in existence, Cyclone lurches towards He-Man, who holds the injured warrior back with one hand while he crushes the Legacy Stones.
That would have been even worse.
Right.
It's like the little kid that you're holding at arm's length and they're trying to punch you and they can't reach you.
Oh.
Boy, that's terrible.
And like I said before, this now is the mid-season break for the series back in 2002. There would not be a new episode until March 1st of 2003. All right, Curtis, that's the end of all that. That means it's time for our wonderful Power Sword ranking. Quick refresher, we've got 3 Power Swords as the best of the best episode. We got 2 Power Swords as an above average episode. 1 Power Sword is a good, solid episode. We got the Cosmic Enforcer, that's neither good nor bad, right down the middle. Then we got 1 Havoc Staffs is a bad episode. 2 Havoc Staffs is even worse. And 3 Havoc Staffs, that episode should be banished to Despondos for all eternity, never to be seen again.
You know what? I don't do this often, but I think I'm gonna have you go first.
All right. So obviously the bad samurai armor, crazy fight scenes. The good cyclone, and cyclone. And the war whale's pretty cool too. Overall, I will give this episode a 1 Power Sword. I think there's enough good and enjoyment in it. I liked seeing a He-Man Man-at-Arms quest, them getting to the island, getting through the traps. That's a lot of fun. Seeing Man-at-Arms actually take some injuries and fight through it. Yeah, really where it just falls apart for me is the actual samurai armor stuff. So, but them introducing Cyclone, who has always been one of my favorite characters, easily bumps us up to a 1 for me.
Yeah, I'm stuck between 1 and a Cosmic Enforcer. I guess I'm going to go 1 as well.
That's exactly where I was.
I think I don't like the samurai armor. I don't like the anime fighting. I don't like there's several plot holes throughout this that they don't explain, including the ending that doesn't make sense. But I think, navigating through the like traps and stuff at the beginning where it feels very like Indiana Jones,
Yes.
like that was really cool. I love the war whale, love Cyclone. Just that whole interaction as he's trying to guard it and they're trying to get in and stuff like that. I'm really a fan of. And then the Beastman grab of Skeletor is just, dude. I just want a screenshot of that. Just like, So yeah, I think I'm going to go with. There's a lot that makes me not like this. Like overall, this is not my favorite episode,
Right.
but there's enough parts in it that I do enjoy that I'm going to go ahead and go 1 Power Sword.
As Beastman grabbed Skeletor to lift him onto the Griffin, he also grabbed Curtis to lift him from a Cosmic Enforcer to a Power Sword.
That is right.
Ugh.
That's how it works.
But I completely agree, and that's what this episode is. Like it's at the end of the day, it's just a fun little episode. Definitely could have been better. But this is definitely the one you most feel Mattel's hand in, where they're definitely like, you've got to at least do this and this and this. And Dean Stefan is doing the bare minimum to satisfy them. So I got to give him credit for that as well.
Yeah, it really kind of sucks because we've talked about this before. Like I think the designs that the Horsemen did on this stuff was great, but even like just certain action features that they wanted, articulation that they wanted, things like that really broke up the sculpt. Now we see that they're, not only they affecting how the toys are coming across, but they're also affecting how the show is going. And throughout, like it just feels like Mattel was trying to do a bunch of stuff and target the wrong audience and doing all these things that it's like, man, if they would have just stayed away and just let them do their thing, I think this could have been a lot better.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. My world will never know. But
I mean, can you imagine that? Because there is a world, there's a universe, there's a part of the multiverse where Mike Young and 4 Horsemen were able to do everything that they wanted to do without Mattel interfering.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
It would have been. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, good times. All right, guys, we want to thank you for tuning in on yet another exciting episode. Please click all those buttons down below. Like, share, subscribe. Drop us a comment. Definitely thanks to everyone who has so far. And as announced in our mid-season break episode, We are giving away a copy of Yuka's wonderful book, and you are entered into that every time you comment, as long as you're not a host of Legends of Grayskull podcast or its affiliates. And
I mean, I'm not in the song, so does that count?
No, just no.
All
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, go watch Roboto's Gambit.
Oh, come on.